Welcome to the Future of Growth podcast with Agrify. Here, we'll be exploring all things related to cannabis, ag tech, controlled environment agriculture, vertical farming, cultivation science, industry trends, and more. Informed by science and driven by data, episodes will enlighten our audience through open dialogue with thought leaders, innovators, and industry disruptors who are forging the future of growth. Join our host, David Kessler, Chief Science Officer at Agrify, as he dives into the many facets that cannabis and agriculture have to offer. Stay connected with Agrify by joining us on all platforms at Agrify Corp and by visiting our website, www.agrify.com. Sit tight for another episode of The Future of Growth, coming at you now.
Hi, everybody. This is David Kessler. I'm the Chief Science Officer at Agrify, and welcome to the Future of Growth. I'm thrilled today to be joined by Devin Alexander. Devin, you are an active voice and cannabis advocate in the Massachusetts area. You're also co-founder and CEO of Rolling Releaf, a Black-owned social equity certified cannabis delivery operating in the Massachusetts market. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, man. The pleasure's all mine. Very glad to be here today.
We really appreciate you making the time. Now, where are you joining us from?
So I'm joining you from my hometown of Quincy, Massachusetts. It is about 15 minutes right outside of Boston, just a little suburb. It is also one of the 29 areas that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs as deemed by the Cannabis Control Commission.
And how does that impact you personally and other licensees in Massachusetts?
Yeah, no, it impacts us personally because that's one of the qualifying criteria to be accepted into the social equity program. If you've lived in one of those disproportionately impacted areas, 5 out of the last 10 years, that allows you entry into the program. So just being from Quincy, which I lived my whole life, was my entry, but I also qualified in other ways that we can get into as we further go on the podcast.
I'm excited to learn more, eager to share your history with our listeners. So with that, I guess, how did you get involved in cannabis in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, cannabis to me has always been a part of my life, even before I actually knew what it was. My family always consumed cannabis, both my parents and grandparents. So I knew the smell of it before I knew what actually was going on. So it never seemed like a bad thing to me, ever. So I've always had an early love for cannabis from very, very early on in life, way back before decriminalization and medical legalization and obviously adult use. So I was just synonymous, just me and cannabis, even just, growing up, going through school. My name was just one and the same. When you think of Devin Alexander, you think of cannabis, and, that's how I really just took it from there. But, when I was a senior in high school, I was messing around with cannabis so much that it led to an arrest when it was just for non-violent, possession of under 7 grams of cannabis. And
so, barely, under a quarter ounce of cannabis and they're arresting you as a juvenile. That's awful. What ended up happening as a result of that?
So at that time, I had plans on going into the Air Force as well. I didn't take the SATs. I didn't apply to any colleges. I had my mind straight bent on going into the Air Force. That was going to be my thing. But then this arrest comes about, and that derailed everything, And so I really had to think on my feet what my next step was going to be. I took a year off after high school and really just did some soul searching. And then I enrolled into my local community college, Quincy College, where I obtained an associate's degree in liberal arts with a concentration in psychology.
Interesting. And what did you do with that degree now that you had it? You are accredited. Did you go and seek further education in psychology, or did you use it to a different end?
I used it to a different end because I realized if I really wanted a really good job of psychology, I was going to need at least a master's degree. And at that point in my life, I was just sick of college and sick of school, and sick of learning stuff I didn't want to learn about, really. But, it really helped because what I did from there is I applied to my local CVS pharmacy for a pharmacy technician position, where in a trainee role where all I'd have to do was apply and they would teach me everything right on the job. I wouldn't have to go to any extra schooling. I feel on the job training is some of the best way to learn something. So it was really, at that time, it seemed like a respectable job. That's what, you know what I'm saying? I really just wanted people to not think I was a loser, not be a bum, not like a screw up. You know, I really wanted to, you know, have a little bit of respect. Like, oh, okay, pharmacy technician, that's a respectable job. You do a service that people need. So I had a drug test, which I had to fake. You know, I had to take somebody else's urine to pass a drug test because I was not stopping smoking at that point in time for anything. I just didn't care really. So I did that. I passed the drug test, and now I'm working at my local CVS pharmacy as a pharmacy tech in the next town over from where I grew up. So a lot of the people that would come in to the pharmacy were people that I grew up with and people who were their parents as well. And I was talking to doctors, talking to insurance companies, filling prescriptions, giving people, I wasn't giving people advice. That's not what I had to do. Not only the pharmacist can do that, but I was just helping people find stuff in the store. And, you know, it was tough. It was really tough. I started right in January. So when people's insurance turns over and obviously it's wintertime, a lot of people are sick and I'm just learning. I got torn to shreds. People tore into me. It was a nasty, nasty job. And it was minimum wage too. I was making like $11 an hour just to get ripped apart to pieces every day. Doing something
people don't appreciate the retail associates enough. I mean, listen, they're doing the best they can and you might have had a bad day or bad service elsewhere, but it's not nice to take out on people that have no business, receiving that aggression. So I'm sorry on their behalf. But working at the pharmacy had to give you some pretty interesting insights. I mean, you're working in probably the most regulated industry that we have, pharmaceuticals, and you're looking at all of the narcotics safeguards, all of the process that they put in place to prevent diversion, which has to have at least got you thinking a little bit about what doubles over into the cannabis realm.
100%, definitely. It was very fast-paced environment. You're on your feet the whole time and you're switching from station to station in the pharmacy. So at one point you're filling prescriptions and then people come to the drive-through and then the phone's ringing and then people are dropping off prescriptions and then people are dropping off prescriptions online. So you're just on your feet buzzing back and forth, just like a pinball in a little machine, just ding, 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 ding all day. And, you know, it's crazy, too, because there was times when police officers would come through the drive-through in full uniform and in their cop car, and they would get prescriptions that required an ID. So here I am asking a cop for their ID from their cop car, and he's calling me, sir. I'm like, this is insane to me.
Quite a juxtaposition. Yeah, absolutely.
Years that I haven't pictured myself doing anything like that. You know, that wasn't my plan going out of high school. I mean, I didn't have a plan, but I didn't see that in the crystal ball, me being in that. But it's also funny because, you know, when I would also ask other people for their IDs at the drive-through, sometimes they would hand me their medical cannabis card because they have the same ID picture, you know, but it's just two different IDs, but they use the same both cards. And that's when I was like, you're going to see me at the dispensary one day. And that's when I knew I wanted to work in cannabis. I knew right at the same time that I started working at CVS was when the dispensary in Quincy opened where I grew up. So I had to work my skills before I wanted a respectable resume before I really switched over there, you know. So doing the task as a pharmacy technician made me excel as a bud tender. So once I really devoted myself to wanting to make that transition, I took online courses for cannabis, and then I would go down to the conventions in Rhode Island, NECAN. I would hand out my resume. I would talk to every single last person that was willing to talk to me and just asking them, how can I break into the industry? What can I do to really hop in? And they just keep showing up, man, keep showing up. And, you know, one day I'm sitting in CVS counting up pills and I get a message on my phone, hey, we're hiring, send us your resume and cover letter. I send it over within 48 hours. You know, I got an interview and they had me right on the spot at my local dispensary right in Quincy, known as Ermont Incorporated.
So your hometown opens a dispensary, you get the opportunity to go work there. The pharmacy technician position has given you valuable skill sets. And now you're working in the industry you love with cannabis. So how did you get from being a bud tender to a business owner? That's not necessarily an uncommon journey, one that a lot of people aspire to, but it's harder than people think to actually achieve. So what allowed you to make that leap?
Honestly, it was my mother. She instilled the confidence in me. I was very content with being a bud tender. You know what I'm saying? I was happy. Like when I got in, I was like, I made it. I'm in now. I'll do this forever. I don't care. You know, that was my mindset at that point in time, you know.
Doing what you love.
My mother really, we're close in age. We're only 16 years apart. So we're really close, you know. So she instilled the confidence in me. She was like, Dev, you know the game and you're passionate and you're a hard worker. You know it better than the people running it. You can do this. And then that's all I needed right there. You know, my mother supports me. It's a wrap. You know, I'm going to do whatever. So in Massachusetts at the time, they had a designation known as economic empowerment. And economic empowerment goes to people who are from the disproportionately impacted areas, and it really grants them priority licensing. So that was only a 2-week window, and it wasn't advertised very well at all. So that happened right before I entered the industry, like literally a couple of weeks in between. So I feel like if I were working in a dispensary, I would have known about it, but I didn't have the insight still at CVS. So I missed out on that window. It's closed down. So it was really imperative to me that I gained access to the social equity program. Social equity program, the difference in between that and economic empowerment is they give you technical assistance and they give you the classes and they teach you what you have to do. The economic empowerment just gives you the access to priority licensing. That's cool, but if you don't know what you're doing, it's really kind of useless, but it's still very valuable nonetheless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad that you were able to get into the industry in one shape or form or another. But of course, it would be really nice if you had that additional support. Now, you're working at the dispensary and something changes, because when I've spoken to you, there seemed to be a urgency, a desire to work within your community. You've talked about Quincy, you love Quincy, you're from Quincy. So how did you transition from cannabis bud tender into being involved in your community, not just as a citizen, but as a civic leader, trying to kind of shape that policy?
Yeah, it just really fell into itself because, you know, management, obviously, I didn't have the fact that I was from Quincy. I always proudly rep Quincy, and I was one of the only people that worked there from Quincy. And couple that in with the fact that people that are coming in the store, they see how many people know me. Just like, Dev, you work here? So again, it's like CVS. All the people that I grew up with, they're coming into the dispensary, their parents coming to the dispensary. And it's funny, even some of the same customers I used to serve at CVS come over to the dispensary now, and they tell me stories how they're able to reduce their intake of opiates because there's very strict advertising rules around cannabis in Massachusetts. So a lot of people don't know where we are. You really have to be in the know to know about the medical program and know where the dispensaries are and how to get your medical card. So it was really like people had to figure a lot out for themselves. So they see, okay, people love this kid. This kid's a local kid. Why don't you do director of community outreach? And from there, we started organizing cleanups in the quarries. We started organizing fundraisers for the animal shelter, for the homeless shelter. And back in September 2019, we organized Quincy's very first National Expungement Day, where we gathered a whole bunch of pro bono attorneys and we gave individuals tools and resources to help them remove nonviolent cannabis crimes from their criminal record. We had former Cannabis Control Commissioner Shalene Title speak, cannabis attorney Blake Mensing, the former Assistant District Attorney of Norfolk County, Michael Latule. No, not. And then who else? I'm trying to think. I think Gavin. There's one other guy who was like Assistant General Attorney, And, from there, it was just meant the world to me because they posted what we did on the Patriot Ledger. And that was the same newspaper that posted my arrest when I got arrested. And they tried to villainize me in a way, saying like, oh, this kid's out here getting arrested from the 7 grams. Look out for this guy. And now, flash forward all these years, I'm on the very front page of that same paper trying to help people who went through similar situations.
That's incredible. And it's absolutely vital. And people know it's vital. I mean, if you look in the media as of recent, you have New York, Arizona, and Virginia, some of the more recent states to enact cannabis legislation, all looking at expungement as part of that move forward process. Because, Devin, in your mind, how can one both promote legal access to cannabis and then jail hundreds, if not thousands, of its own citizens for what is now legal and making people profit? That had to rub you a little bit of the wrong way.
Yeah, no, it's really, it's really just maddening, it's just it's just the pot calling the kettle black. And it's just so much hypocrisy. I can't even, and we'd be here all day really get into it. So it's just frustrating, but thank God for organizations such as the Last Prisoner Projects that are helping to spread awareness to the causes and all the goods that we can help. And, even this past year with the whole rise in Black Lives Matter movement, you've seen a lot more attention being put towards efforts such as those. So, we still have a long way to go, but we're in a better position than we were 2 years ago on that front. And you've seen just recently when New York legalized, they introduced automatic expungement. So people don't have to go through the court system. The governor just helped erase all those with one stroke of his pen. And, I think that should be the standard moving forward for all states that come on for legalization, which I'm pretty sure New Mexico did as well.
I really do agree that it should be what happens. Again, how can you jail your populace when at the same time promoting what they're in jail for? So, like you said, hopefully more states follow in line with that process. And I hope for the same thing. Now, Devin, at some point, you're working in community outreach. You've thrown this incredibly successful expungement event in 2019. But you wanted more. You wanted to be a business entrepreneur yourself. So how did your entrepreneurial spirit get started? And then how did you decide to go after that delivery license structure?
Really, the entrepreneurial spirit started just by seeing other people who I didn't feel were doing as good of a job. And I was like, these guys are in and doing this. I was like, I know way better if I can do way better job than these guys. So it really was just not allowing my state to be overtaken by whackness, really. So I was like, these guys I've kept my nose clean this far. I know enough of the right people, and I guarantee you I'm way more passionate about this than they are. So all that just really, the stars aligned. And really when we when we first started taking the social equity program, classes started in October 2019, and we would all go to different locations throughout the state, and we would all gather in person. And that first cohort that I was in was very star-studded to me because it was filled with people that I would read about and see on the news, and they were very inspirational to me. And now I'm sitting next to them in class, picking their brain and really talking to them and telling them my story and telling them my plans. And they're like, wow, man. So they instilled a lot of confidence in me as well. And they're like, yeah, man, you're going to kill it. You got this, So it's really just the whole community of equity applicants really helped, pump up my confidence a lot. And delivery to me was the crown jewel of the social equity program, because in Massachusetts, what they want to do is they want to give exclusivity to delivery licenses. They want to give them access for multiple years before all the larger operators can come and start entering the delivery market. And that was just a no-brainer for me. No other license type had that.
Right. So that advantage which they're providing, which is in some ways to offset the disadvantages communities and potential operators had experienced, it does give you an upside. It lets you build that business without worrying that these large multi-state operators, backed by millions, if not billions of dollars, are going to just come in with a bigger checkbook and, eviscerate your market share. So in terms of getting that to move forward, now you're in the training program, you're relating to the social equity applicants and finding, as you described them, to be star-studded, but really what they were was equally determined and driven individuals. And as you assemble together, you learn from each other. Are you still in touch with any of those people today? Are they a part of your business? How did that influence you, those initial classes?
Yeah, no, I still talk to a lot of them. Philip Smith from Freshly Baked is a micro business. We were classmates. Ian Woods, he is provisionally licensed. He's going to be in Brockton, Mass. doing retail. Andrew Muddy from Beantown, Greentown. Caroline Frankel, Caroline's Cannabis. She was the very first woman-owned dispensary in Massachusetts. And they've seen me go from really nothing to start ascending and really start building my profile and really standing up for what I believe in. And, everything that we learned in the first cohort had nothing to do with delivery. So the first cohort ran from October 2019 to April 2020. And then the initial delivery licenses were released in May 2020. So right after we finished equity program, boom, that's when they release these new delivery licenses. It is now known as the courier license. So how they initially rolled it out was you would have your location and you would have to contract with an adult use dispensary and you would take on all of their product pre-packaged. And at the end of the day, you would have to return everything that you didn't sell. So on top of all those parameters, you have to have 2 drivers in the vehicle. They both have to be wearing body cameras. You have to have 2 safes, 1 for products, 1 for cash, and then 2 additional cameras in the van. And also, what makes Massachusetts so painfully unique is the host community agreement process. So every cannabis business has to have what is known as a host community agreement, which is a contract that is 5 years in length between you and the municipality operating in, saying you're going to pay 3% of their annual gross sales. And, there's no oversight of these contracts, so they're ripe for extortion. So we see all these barriers on top of what we have to do, and we think to ourselves, how is this license type going to succeed? Where's the room for profitability? After the 3-year exclusivity period ends, what incentive does that retailer have to keep you around? Because they can now enter into the delivery market. Mm-hmm. So myself and a fellow other grassroots community activists formed what is now known as the Massachusetts Cannabis Association for Delivery, which I currently serve as the vice president of. The initial group was me, Christopher Fevry, Aaron and Janelle Goins, husband and wife power couple, Morris Partee from out in Western Mass, and Grant Smith played a huge role, who's the current president of MassCan. So we were able to meet with the Cannabis Control Commissioners, and we showed them financial projections, and we voiced our concerns when everything coincided perfectly. So these new licenses come out in May. We formed this association in June, and then they happened to just be opening up a public forum for public testimony in August. So we had time to talk with them in July in preparation for that public testimony, and also talk to the community on the changes that we wanted to see. So we asked them for 3 major things. We wanted the ability to wholesale directly from cultivators and manufacturers. And we wanted the ability to store that product in our warehouse overnight. And we wanted our exclusivity period extended. Originally, they proposed 2 years for the addition of the 3rd year. We wanted 3 years with an addition for a 4th year. So this is August at this point in time. We're talking to them. We go through public comment, and it might have just well been a delivery show, because 90% of everybody who testified that day said the same exact things we wanted. So it was just a delivery marathon. Everybody saying, boom, we want to do this. We want this. We want this.
So you coordinated a civil effort to really nail that point home. But in talking to you, it sounded like you you made headway.
Yeah. It just happened so fast. I didn't really forming the association gave us a lot of validity. So that's when, that's when the news people start hitting you up. That's when all the reporters will start talking to you now, because you guys are an organized group instead of a bunch of ragtag Facebook bandits. So formalizing really helped us go a long way and help people take us seriously. So then, okay, we're getting all these interviews with people. People are starting to know all across the state, MCAD, this is what they stand for. This is what they're trying to push. Okay, these are all reasonable demands. You're all about equity. You want these delivery licenses to work. You're going to have to make these changes if you really want it to work. And, never in a million years did I think it was going to happen so quickly, at least anyway, and so the public testimony was on August 3rd. And then the Cannabis Control Commission voted August 28th, 4-0 unanimously to approve everything that we wanted. They created a whole new license type, what is now known as the Marijuana Delivery Operator License.
And that was really, and not to give you sole credit, but to give the organization sole credit, that really was through your efforts and that of your colleagues, that the license type was granted and really fundamentally changed the landscape of delivery. Now, not everyone was happy about this. And I know that I think in October, it started to be coming to a head because there were other groups that weren't as, I guess, positively inclined by these changes. So talk to me about that, because I think the CCC actually came through and helped you guys out in a way.
Yeah, so the Commonwealth Dispensary Association, they're an organization that was made up of more than 75% of the marijuana retailers in Massachusetts. So the original license type had it, so we had to contract with them. So they had their little way into delivery. This new license type essentially cut them out of it. We basically cut out the middleman and going straight to the supplier. That angered them. They did not like that. Everybody's for equity until they say it's going to start affecting their bottom line. So they voiced their concern to the CCC. So the regs are supposed to be finalized in September. So the CCC, being fair, they pushed it back. They're like, okay, we're going to accept written testimony this time in October. So they say, send us your concerns through email. But what they didn't say was they're going to make these emails public knowledge. So a lot of phonies got exposed in October. A lot of people that claim to be for equity on social media and in person, but then, the CCC exposed your emails and it's the exact opposite. There's even one case where someone wouldn't sign their name to it, but the CCC still published your name on the top of the header. So it's a crazy soap opera level of drama at this point in time. And, you're just trying to just remain steadfast in your pursuits, not let all the pressures get to you, and really just trying to stay focused on your main goal.
So the CCC publishes as public record the written, I guess, refutations or comments on this new license type and then it went even further than that. That causes a lot of outrage, but what continued or what happened after the CCC published those names? Because that had to expose a lot of people that thought they were protesting in silence. And I bet some of those people were even part of the Massachusetts Cannabis Association for Delivery. So people that were trying to pay both sides of the fence. What actually resulted? What was the fallout of the CCC publishing those written comments?
You've seen a lot of people delete their social media accounts. I've seen a lot of people block me. That's for damn sure, because they know I was going to rip them to shreds. I wasn't at that point in time. If you weren't with me, you're against me, and it just wasn't going to be good for you. Not I was going to do anything. It's just really I was just going to expose you and really put you on blast and put a spotlight on all the things that you say you claim to be for, but it's like the Maury Povich show. It's like he claimed with this, the lie detector for this is this, So yeah. It's a very big bunch of phonies, that's what resulted. So that was October, and then we fast forward to November to the next month. So this has been pushed back continuously, you know what I'm saying? It was supposed to be done in September. So they had another public testimony on November 13th, right? So I signed up early. So I'm one of the first 5 people to get to talk. I voiced my concerns. I'm like, what are we doing here? Why are we still here? We did this back in August. We know what's going on. We know you guys going to hear the same things that you heard again. And they did, and they were, they heard it. And then some people that signed up to give testimony, I knew like they were going to be against us. They dropped out and didn't want to speak because they saw how many people were everything that we were going for. And they saw like, oh man, if I speak against this, everyone's just gonna know I suck. So you saw a lot of people just start dropping out and not talking at that November 13th public testimony. They hear that testimony November 13th. Fast forward November 30th, they vote to formally finalize the regulations for the marijuana delivery operator license.
Good on you. Good on them.
And at that time, the Commonwealth Dispensary Association, there was whispers, they were threatening a lawsuit. And this is November. It's like, we're going to file a lawsuit if you guys do that. We're going to file a lawsuit against CCC if you guys create that license type. And that was November. And then, December, very chill, nothing, very quiet. January 8th, the Cannabis Control Commission, the Secretary of State, they promulgate the final regulations. So now it's on paper. The regs are on their website. It's really officially official. The marijuana delivery operator license is here to stay. A week later, the Commonwealth Dispensary Association formally files their lawsuit against the Cannabis Control Commission.
Oh, that must have been disheartening and troublesome.
Oh my God. It just added a whole new fire to me because also during that point in time, Martin Luther King Jr. Day occurred. So a lot of these dispensaries that are a part of this association, they would post on their social media accounts on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, equality, justice for all, Black Lives Matter. But here you are, and that's part of an association that's filing a lawsuit against mostly minority-owned business over the most progressive equity provisions Massachusetts has come up with. Other states are going to be modeling their delivery after what we've been able to accomplish. And everyone that was part of the Commonwealth Dispensary Association wanted to destroy everything that we worked for. So I took that personal, obviously. We were able to link up with Chanel Lindsay, who is a Massachusetts native, and she's has a nonprofit Equitable Opportunities now. We got Grant Smith and MassCan again. And we were able to also reach out to Mary Pryor, who was in charge of a group called Can Inclusive out of Detroit and New Jersey. And they have a heavy Instagram following and are nationally known. And what Can Inclusive did was they posted a list of all the dispensaries that are in the Commonwealth Dispensary Association, and we called them out name by name and really shine the spotlight on what was going on, because some of these companies are also multi-state operators. And so it's looking back to the other states. It's like, well, if you're pulling that in Massachusetts, what are you going to do here in Pennsylvania and New Jersey if you're doing this to here right now? So once we got them on board and really started, calling for a boycott of all CDA spots and really getting all the Boston Herald and Mass Live behind us, you started to see the dispensaries drop out one by one.
When you say drop out, were you saying of the lawsuit or of the CDA or of both? Of
the CDA. So they were saying they were not part of the CDA. So the lawsuit got announced on a Wednesday. And so that's when we went straight to it and started going after them. And people started dropping like flies, boom, boom, boom. And then it got to the point where they just dropped the lawsuit altogether, which was Sunday. It wasn't even a whole week.
They didn't even make it a whole week once you turned a spotlight onto them. That's great.
They didn't make it a whole week. And it was just amazing to see, what you can achieve through the power of the people and community.
And that's it. One person has a voice, but together you have power. And that's what working together towards common goals to change unfair regulations are about. And why we as an industry need to pay more attention to social equity, to those that have been disenfranchised or disadvantaged, and provide them an opportunity to be a part of this amazing industry. Devin, I'm thrilled that you are a part of this industry, that you have unfortunately taken such a tough road to get here, but that you have made such a difference for yourself and others. We really all appreciate that. Tell me a little bit more about what your plans are now. The licensing is through, you're accepted, and so tell me where you're headed today.
Yeah, so we're going to be in a town called Middleborough, which is about 35 minutes outside of Boston, nice little suburb on the South Coast. And our landlord is a really great guy named Charlie Hunt. So what Charlie did is he has about 75 acres of land, and he created a cannabis campus, Silicon Valley style. So he's putting a bunch of cannabis cultivators and cannabis product manufacturers all in this one plot of land. And he's also made space for us delivery companies. So we don't really have to go too far to obtain our product. And a lot of these companies are social equity certified too. So it's really great to have all these people all in the same spot. They're all in the same age range as us. And so that's really just, I can't wait to get started and really connecting with them down there. So obviously we have the ability to wholesale. So we're just trying to, create an emphasis on local brands, just people who are from Massachusetts and aren't really connected with the CDA or the MSOs. Our license type allows us to have up to 2 delivery warehouses. So we definitely want to have another warehouse in Central Mass. But at the same time, we're also waiting for our applications to be released for that license type. That's the one downside to creating a new license type. You have to wait for them to create a whole new application. And literally, I get asked the question every single, I'm not even exaggerating, every day, when is the marijuana delivery operator license application going to come out? Even my own lawyer asked me, and I don't.
If I could get that answer, buddy, yeah. I would give it to you because we would be applying right now.
Trust me, everyone's gonna know because I'm gonna get on my rooftop and just sound the horn and let the whole it's here. Let's go. It's out now. But they told us the first quarter of 2021, but it's gonna be May in 2 weeks. The first quarter we're past the first quarter. We've heard within the next 30 to 60 days, which, knock on wood, Jesus, probably, it shouldn't take longer than June. But, we have everything else in place that we need to hit the ground running. So we have our location secured. We've got a host community agreement, very reasonable terms. The town of Middleborough is very accepting. Our landlord is very great. He's not jacking up the price of rent on us like some other people like to do when it comes to cannabis businesses.
Oh, yeah.
He's very supportive of our vision. So it's really just a whole waiting game, We formed the LLC last May. So we're kind of, in cannabis senses, we're flying through it. But if someone looks from the outside looking in, like, it's taking you a whole year. It's like, hey, man, we've actually made a lot of progress compared to other people. I still know people who waited years and they have the applications out for retail, and it still takes and they have the application out for cultivation. It takes a long time in this industry. It's a marathon,
Oh, yeah.
So you keep telling yourself, how bad do you want it? How much are you really willing to put in to what you want?
Absolutely. And I definitely agree. It is not a short process, one which often has many delays involved. But if you're passionate and you're persistent, then you end up winning. And Devin, that's what we're excited for you. Now, when it comes to buying from a cultivator as part of the wholesale that you're now allowed to do because you fought for that as part of the licensing change, what does that do to the caregiver? Because Massachusetts has enacted an additional caregiver regulations, which are pretty generous. I mean, 500 square feet of canopy is a lot of canopy for a medical caregiver. And are you going to be able to use smaller caregivers as a source of cannabis for your business, or does it limit your access to just brick and mortar cultivators?
It limits our access to brick and mortar cultivators. I wish we were like Maine, because I know in Maine, that they can do what you just described, working with
Mm-hmm.
caregivers like that. But Massachusetts is not as cool as Maine in more ways than one.
Well,
So
wouldn't it help you guys as smaller operators banding together, right? If you're having to play with an MSO to buy product, that's very different than being able to go to a smaller operator, maybe even more craft or boutique. I mean, is that something you might look to fight for in the future?
if it comes up in enough, definitely. But I feel most of the caregivers I know, I don't know how the regulations would constrain them. If would they put heavier regulations on them if they want to go down that path? They want to go into their homes and check out their personal home grows like that and make sure things are up to par. People coming into their own private residences and doing that. So I'm not exactly how sure. Massachusetts is very strict. They would be on stuff like that. So that's why, at least, with the craft cultivators, the micro businesses, they're used to working that. They know the regulations. They're very comfortable with having their products go through the third-party testing labs as well. And hopefully, they have to go through that third-party testing lab in order to go on shelves. I'm not saying caregivers grow dirty medicine, but it might be a little bit harder because they don't have the resources that these other craft cultivators have in these facilities.
It's definitely a less regulated sub producer level, but I would never say that they grow any inferior quality medicine. It really goes to how you design your facility, the processes you put in place. And I've met small time growers that care about the product more than a lot of the bigger growers, where it's not just profit, it's product, it's medicine, and they believe that. So hopefully that comes through. But if you can't use the caregivers as a point of wholesale purchase, then what are you planning to do, Devin, for Rolling Releaf? Have you established some wholesale connections in the Massachusetts market, or is that something you're still trying to do?
Yeah, no, that's definitely what I do in my downtime. I've placed a heavy emphasis on establishing those connections. So what I've done personally is, so once a company obtains provisional licensure, the CCC makes it public documents and they put it on their website for everybody to see. So what I do, I don't know if anybody else does this, but I do it, and I go and look on those documents and I search through them one by one, look at every single document. I'm looking at their names. I'm looking where they're located. I'm looking who owns them. Are they woman-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned, social equity certified? And then I'm identifying the owners, and then I'm looking them up on LinkedIn. I'm messaging them on LinkedIn, and I'm setting up Zoom meetings with them to talk to them one-on-one. And through that, I've been able to establish quite a small network of cultivators, product manufacturers. One of them is Just Incredible Cultivation. Their CEO is Reginald Stanfield. They are the first Black-owned cultivator in Massachusetts. And I'm very happy to announce that Rolling Releaf and Just Incredible Cultivation have formally formed a partnership. So we will be a big wholesale, they'll be a big supplier of the products that we deliver to consumers in a timely and efficient manner. Another gentleman, Sohiko Ono, is the first Asian-owned cultivator in Massachusetts. He is out in Western Mass in Pittsfield, and he's going to have 90,000 acres of outdoor cultivation. So he's an outdoor farmer. So he's going to have that sun-grown, nice products. Coast Cannabis, the first woman-owned product manufacturer, Angela Brown. They make some of the best chocolate bars in the state. So Angela has already reached out, and we established those partnerships. And, I feel like the activism and the public speaking has really helped ease those partnerships, because people reach out to me and they say it would be an honor if you would carry our products, because they've seen me, they've seen how hard I've worked to establish this, they've seen what I'm about, and they see my morals. And, I talk the talk and I walk the walk, and that's what people love about me.
Devin, I couldn't agree more. You have literally walked the battle, gotten the license, fought for what was correct in the industry. And I'm not at all surprised that innovative people, business owners and entrepreneurs want to work with you. We wish you all the success, because it's really amazing what you've done, and we're sure you'll be successful really excited that you're going to be a part of the Massachusetts market, and I'll be moving there over the summer. So hopefully I can be one of your customers when I get out there, and hopefully you'll be operating by then. I know it's been a long road.
Keeping my fingers crossed. We'll definitely do everything in our power to get up and operating as fast as we can. And we just want to bring the craft products to the people. We just want to be the one-stop shop. We don't want to have it so you have to really double think about what you're purchasing. You don't have to worry about if you're purchasing products from someone that's really, who cares about the industry? Are you supporting a large MSO? Like, no, every time you're buying from Rolling Releaf, it's going to be a local craft brand. Don't worry about it. Let us worry about that. And every time you make any purchase, whether it's an edible, a pre-roll, a topical, I guarantee it will come from a local Massachusetts supplier.
Devin, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your struggle and your triumphs and Rolling Releaf's success. We're huge advocates at Agrify for a responsible supply chain. And you can know that if you're in Massachusetts and you're purchasing from Rolling Releaf, they do value that supply chain. They do work towards social equity and really highlighting not just wonderful operators, but wonderful product quality as well. So Devin, again, thank you for joining us today. If people want to learn more about you or Rolling Releaf, how would they contact you?
Yeah, you can go on my Instagram. It's at rolling_relief. You can contact me through there. You can find me on LinkedIn, Devin Alexander, or you can check out our website, rollingreleaf.org.
Devin, again, thank you so much, everybody. If you are interested in social equity in Devin or Rolling Releaf, please reach out. We appreciate you making the time for the future of growth again, and thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Future of Growth. We love to hear from our audience. Have a great idea for a guest or a topic you'd like us to cover? Thoughts you want to share? Reach out to media@agrify.com. Don't forget to stay connected with Agrify at Agrify Corp on all platforms and by visiting us at www.agrify.com. See you next time for another episode of The Future of Growth.